Hello and welcome to another Hand Drink Solo Wine info video, and today we are talking about Jakob's Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon 2017, which comes from a single block of vineyards up in the Hemel-en-Aarde ridge. Now if you're sipping this wine while watching the video, then you'll notice some fairly classic Cabernet Sauvignon aromas. In fact, there's pretty much all the categories that make up an indubitably stonking Cabernet Sauvignon. You've got the fruit group. In this case, you've got these lovely notes of cassis and more savory roasted black plum. And then on the herb and herbaceous elements, you've got mint and oreganum, and there's some roasted red bell pepper, again beautifully savory, and some fresh earth. And then, quite a lovely surprise, on top of that is some notes of dried rose petals, which is of course not classic Cabernet Sauvignon, but delightful nevertheless. And then, bearing in mind that this wine has been matured for 24 months in oak, of which 30% of that was new, it's no surprise that there are also some elements of vanilla and a little bit of cedar wood. And when we sip it, as the aroma suggested, that palate is gloriously savory. You do have the black fruit, the roasted plum, and the cassis coming through, but it's joined by some beautifully bright red cherry notes, which of course adds huge levels of complexity. Now you will have noticed that there's nothing particularly crazy in there, and that's mostly because this is not trying to be a crazy wine, it's trying to be classic.
Classic.
Classic? Oh, it's classic.
It's a classic?
Oh, for sure.
But you might ask, isn't the Hemel-en-Aarde area more known for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir? So what on earth is a winemaker trying to do, making a classic Cabernet Sauvignon from a region that is absolutely not classic Cabernet Sauvignon?
What's up with that?
My retort to you would be to say that there's absolutely nothing about the Hemel-en-Aarde that is preventing it from becoming epic Cabernet country. As far as its climate goes, it is a moderate to cool maritime area, not unlike that of Bordeaux. And the soils up on the ridge where this particular Jakob's Vineyard block are to be found are mostly clay shales, which have never posed any real problems for Cabernet Sauvignon. Finally, if the actual climatic and geological conditions of the area are not enough to convince you, perhaps try looking at some of the other producers in the region. We have Restless River, Spookfontein, and Benguela Cove, all three of which operating within the Walker Bay area and delivering some absolutely fantastic, critically lauded Cabernet Sauvignon. Perhaps one final little point of interest with regards to this specific wine is that it was made by winemaker Peter Allen Finlayson at the Gabrielskloof cellar. Peter Allen Finlayson is of course the genius behind the award-winning Crystallum range of wines. Now when it comes to the estate itself, it is located, as I said, up in the tippy top ward of the three wards that make up the Hemel-en-Aarde area, and that is called the Hemel-en-Aarde Ridge. For the literature buffs out there, the name Jakob's Vineyard comes from the biblical reference when Israelite patriarch Jacob dreamt about a ladder that connected heaven and earth, which is of course a fairly obvious link to the name Hemel-en-Aarde, which when translated from Afrikaans means heaven and earth. Right, so that's all we have time for today, but if you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing to the Hand Drink Solo YouTube channel, where we talk about wine science, cellar mastery, some history, and some of the rising stars coming out of the South African winelands.